Hi, my name is Perry Wolf, and this is a code review for the Computer Science Capstone course at Southern New Hampshire University. This project is a fitness application designed in Android Studio using the Java programming language. The first activity you'll be taken to upon launching the application is this screen. Right here on the screen you'll be able to log in. If your login credentials are not in the SQLite database, you'll receive a notification telling you that the username and password combination does not exist. All of that information is stored in this database helper class using the SQLite Open Helper library. These are all the table constants declarations. Here's where all the tables are actually created and all the methods for all the database functionality. Anyways, so once you log in, you'll be taken to the user profile page right here, and if you have not selected these things already, then you can input the information, but if you've already logged in and filled this out, then it will look different. It'll display what you've already selected. So from here you can go to 3 different pages to to view your fitness information. There's a weight page to keep up with your weights, exercise to keep up with your exercise, and diet to keep up with your diet. So that is essentially what the application is designed to do, just to track your fitness data and keep up with it easier. I'll go through each of these pages real quick. So the weight page, that's not the weight page. Wait. There it is. Design. Okay, so the weight page, you can input your current weight, and it will each day's weight for the past all the days you've entered will be displayed in this list. If you have already entered a weight for that day, then when you type in the new weight and press enter, it will overwrite the current day. There's also a recommendation at the bottom. This will tell you your weight trend over the past couple of weeks. So if your goal is to gain weight and you're gaining weight, then it will tell you good job. If your goal is to gain weight and you're losing weight, then it will tell you that you are not eating enough calories, and vice versa. So if your goal is to lose weight and you're gaining weight, then it will tell you to eat less calories, and the more detailed recommendation will be updated on the diet page right here. So you can add all your macros, and it's the same concept. So the date and your calories, protein, carb, and fats will all be listed for all of the past dates that you've entered. And the recommendation will tell you how many more or less calories you should be eating than you currently are. If that is, if you are getting close to your calorie recommendation. Okay, so for example, if your recommendation is to eat 2,000 calories and you're eating 3,000 calories, then your calorie recommendation will not be changed because you are not following the recommendation. So it'll just tell you to try to get closer to your calorie goal. If you are close to your calorie goal though, and your weight is still not doing what you want it to, then the recommended daily calories will actually be updated. Okay, and then there's the exercise page. Right here, you can input how much time you've exercised and the type of the exercise, and the recommendation will tell you if you are getting enough exercise or if you are over exercising based on, actually, it won't say that you're over exercising, but it will recommend that maybe you take some rest. And this is based on the Department of Health's recommended exercise per week. Okay, so that is basically what the application is supposed to do. Also, I recently added in, let's go to, no, Line database, management system, Microsoft SQL Server. This is the connection information. So in the future, the user will be able to use the application in online or offline mode, and the databases will sync to so that they're have the same data in both of them. That way you can view your data from multiple devices if you want to, or if you don't have internet connection, then you can use the offline mode. Okay, so for the code review, does the code completely and correctly implement the design? Everything on here is correct to the best of my ability as a programmer. But I'm sure there are errors. The application does run and everything works as intended. Does the code conform to any pertinent coding standards? So I have tried to separate code blocks using space and putting comments above each new code block to tell what that block of code is supposed to do. Let's see where database helper. So there's some good examples in here. So this block does this, and So all of these methods under this are deal with methods for exercise data. All of this, all the way down to here. And see, there's 2 space lines, so that's how I know that it's a different, has to do with something else. So I try to do that throughout the code to make it readable by others and myself. Is the code well structured, consistent in style, and consistently formatted? I guess that is kind of the same thing as what I just said. Are there any uncalled for or unneeded procedures or any unreachable code? I think I trimmed out some code that was not being used pretty recently, so there shouldn't be any unreachable code left. If there was, it would probably be in this class. But I think I took all of the unreachable code out. Are there any leftover stubs or test routines in the code? No, I do not have any test routines in the code at all, which is something I need to do in the future for sure. Can any code be replaced by calls to external reusable components or library functions? So I do use a lot of library functions, well, mainly because this entire class is making use of the SQLite Open Helper library, and there are other libraries that are used for programming the layouts. Are there any blocks of repeated code that could be condensed into a single procedure? So one example of where I did manage to condense some code is these methods in the database helper class. So instead of having a specific method to retrieve data from the SQLite database, I made a more general method so I can get any string data from any column and table in the database, and then I need a different method for getting integers. So anything can be retrieved from the database if only one specific piece of data is needed, which it is. Is storage use efficient? I have tried to reduce some of the store. Actually, I think I went back on that idea. I was planning to change everything to floats instead of doubles, but after some research, I found out that that is not usually necessary except when storage is a large concern. So what I found led me to believe that I was fine to use doubles everywhere instead of floats. Are symbolics used rather than magic number constants or string constants? There are no magic number constants used. Except for maybe these connection strings. This might just be temporary. I'm not sure what the best way to build the connection class is. I just got this from a tutorial, so I'm not sure if this is good or bad. It may be changed in the near future. Are any modules excessively complex and should be restructured or split into multiple routines? So I don't think anything is overly complex. Some of the Android Studio tools took me a little bit of time to understand how to use. For example, where is it? These recycler adapters are kind of confusing. This is to generate the scrollable lists, such as on this page. So this list. So it's basically putting a layout inside of a layout that can scroll up and down. So to do that, you have to have something that looks like this, where you bind another layout to fit in the specified container. So that's probably the most complicated thing that I've had to learn, but that is the most efficient way to do it. So I think everything else is pretty straightforward. Our documentation. Is the code clearly and adequately documented with an easy to maintain commenting style? Absolutely, I think it is. Actually, okay, so there could be, for example, this class has no comments on it at all. I think none of the recycler adapters have comments, so I do need to go back and add some comments, but most of the important stuff has Like this is just a simple diet class, so that's can be understood pretty easily. All the activities where things are actually happening have comments and are separated by space, so those should be easy to follow. Are all comments consistent with the code? Yes. I don't have any comments that does not match, or that do not match the code below it. Variables. Are all variables properly defined with meaningful, consistent, and clear names? Yeah, I definitely put some thought into the naming convention of the variables and the class names. So, for example, all of my values. Okay. All of the strings on the activity, each of the activities. So, for example, all of the widgets and text follow the same naming convention. That's right. Oh, right here. So all the buttons start with button, all the text starts with the name of the activity that it's on and then the name of the text. So login is the name of the activity and title would be the text itself. Do all assigned variables have proper type consistency or casting? Yes. So mostly there's some integers, doubles, and strings. I think I got rid of all the floats. Where would any type consistency errors be? They would probably be on the database helper page class. Are there any redundant or unused variables? I don't believe so. I think all the variables in the project are necessary, and there are quite a lot of them because every widget or text on all the activities needs a variable. Also, has to be a variable to get that text from the activity. So every widget pretty much has two variables. Arithmetic operations. Does the code avoid floating point numbers for equality? Yes, actually I did run into that issue somewhere. It is in the recommendations. So that's going to be, let's go to here for example. Yeah, okay, so at one point I did have if the weight change were to equal 0.0, for example, and that did cause issues. So now there are no equal signs anywhere in this or any of the other code blocks that look like this. Does the code systematically prevent rounding errors? There are not any operations done, so there is no rounding. Does the code avoid addition and subtraction on numbers with greatly different magnitudes? I think I actually ran into this problem somewhere as well and have since gotten rid of that. Are divisors tested for zero or noise? So no, they're not. And I think at one point I did have to divide. But I have since gotten rid of that method. So okay, actually, this is where I ran into that issue. So if I had had a test here, I would have figured out that for some reason in certain circumstances you get 0 entries and it will cause an error. But I have added code logic to catch any zeros that come through here now, so this cannot be 0 if it gets to this line of code. Loops and branches. Are all loops branches and logic constructs complete, correct, and properly nested? Yes. believe so. So this is a do-while loop that will exit when it does not have any more entries within the cursor that meet the date criteria. For example, this is pretty complicated looking code, but it's actually not that. This needs commentation for sure. I'll have to go back and add comments here. This block of code does work though, so I guess it is properly nested. Are the most common cases tested first in if-else chains? So there's an if-else chain right right here. So this first checks if the user tried to go to the next page without anything in either of the fields. So if either of the fields are blank, then it will get this error. Then it's gonna check the username, and if the username is not in the database, then it will show this. Then it's going to check and see if the username matches the password listed for that username, and you'll get password incorrect. If so, if it does not match. Finally, if the user entered the right information, then they are taken to the next activity and logged in with their information displayed. Are all cases covered in an if-else-if or case block, including else or default clauses? Yes, so well, no, not all the tests need to be added to ensure that every line of code gets executed at some point. Does every case statement have a default? There are no case statements in this project. Are loop termination conditions obvious and invariably achievable? Yes, so in this do while loop, for example, as soon as the cursor cannot move backwards anymore, the block and the loop ends, and the cursor closes, and the return statement executes. Are indexes or subscripts properly initialized just prior to the loop? Yes. So this initializes this loop, for example. It moves to the end of the cursor, or actually this initializes the this builds the cursor, and then this initializes it. Just before it enters the loop. Can any statements that are enclosed within loops be placed outside the loops? I don't believe so. Everything, so this is a loop within a loop, which you have to compare all of the data from the table to data from the last 7 days to retrieve only the data from those last 7 days. Can any statements that are does the code in the loop avoid manipulating the index variable or using it upon exit from the loop? Actually, I think I ran into this issue earlier where I was trying to use the index outside of the loop, but I've since restructured. I don't think there are any other loops used in this project. There's a lot of if-else code blocks, but not many other loops. Are indexes, pointers, and subscripts tested against array, record, or file bounds? No, they are not. Whenever I add testing to the project, I'll probably need to add that with it. Are imported data and input arguments tested for validity and completeness? No. They're not. So when I build my SQL Server, or Microsoft SQL Server database to be imported into the project. I'll definitely need to do that to check formatting of that data so that it will work correctly. Are all output variables assigned? Are the correct data operated on in each statement? Yes, I believe so. Usually the data being operated on is data from the SQLite database. And it's operated on and then displayed on its specific activity. Yeah. So when I've used the application myself, usually I get the correct results. I haven't managed to get some data that was incorrect the last time that I used the application. There are likely some ways that I've missed where you could possibly break the code, but it would not be because it's accessing the wrong data. Are timeouts or error traps used for external device accesses? No. So this would need to be implemented for sure, since it's a Android application, to time out the application if the user does not do anything for a certain period of time. Are files checked for existence before attempting to access them? No, they are not. The only place I see this being an issue would be in the connection class. So if this if any of this information was different on the user's device, then it might cause the database to not connect, and cause the application to crash? Are all files and devices left in the correct state upon program termination? Yes. So the main thing that needs to be saved is all saved in the database, and then all of the other files can just close. Okay, so for my enhancements, my plan is to, as you can see, everything is very plain right now, so I just want to update the user interface for my first enhancement. So that would include 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different activities. For my second enhancement, I plan to, and these two enhancements kind of go together. I want to make the, like I was talking about a little bit ago, make the SQLite database sync with the Microsoft SQL Server database. So I will need algorithms to ensure that that sync is correct and as efficient as possible. And so for that will be for the algorithm data structures and algorithms enhancement. And then finally for the databases enhancement, I'll need to build the Microsoft SQL Server database. And then connect it, each table in the SQLite database to its corresponding table in the Microsoft SQL Server database. And that is it for my code review. Thank you for listening.